probably drop the price.
It's also important to remember that Apple gets revenue after the sale as well. So they get revenue from the search bar, and it's probably a few dollars a year, and that comes from Google right now. And they also get revenue from the App Store. They get a percentage of sales, both of the apps themselves as well as in-app purchases, and that's not insubstantial. They probably could drop the price quite a bit and still be very happy with the results.
I think that Steve Jobs did a wonderful job of, as you pointed out, setting up where the runway is. It has to be do more than a computer, do things differently.
More than an iPhone, right. Finally, what does this say about Steve Jobs?
To me, it's you know, he didn't point to the fence. He didn't say, he said he was excited about this. I'm sure there are a few fanboys out there who aren't totally waving the pom-poms about everything about this device. But in the main, you've got, you know, you got Michael Arrington, Walter Mossberg.
Boy, yeah, those boys.
When you got those guys interested in your device, I think they hit their mark.
You know, I think this is another example of something that's fundamental to understand about Steve Jobs as a CEO. He is not a market research-driven guy. He doesn't want to go out and ask people, well, how can we make this a little bit better, or what's the next little improvement you'd like? He tries to figure out what people don't know they want yet, and then do it. Try to do it in a beautiful way and try to make them want it. And I'm probably being the most reserved here tonight because although I do agree with David that the feeling is wonderful in the hand, I need to live with it. But I will say he's not shying away from big, bold risks. And that's been true of him whether you're talking about Apple or Pixar or whatever he's done. It's just the way he operates as a business guy. It also, you know, means that there's a risk of a big flop in some of these products over time. There's
not much risk of a big flop here, is it? I mean, except for the fact that we don't know that there's a great market for a tablet. But other than that, there's not much.
But that's big, Charlie. We don't. He is going into an area here, and look. I think the odds are likelier that this will be a success than that it will be a big flop. Yeah. But he is going into an area where everyone has tried it, including Bill Gates, who is not a stupid man, and you know Bill. And he was totally, personally passionate about the Windows tablet PC, which was a big flop. So well, all I'm saying about Steve Jobs is he tries to think of what would be a good way to use technology, software, hardware, all together, the whole enchilada end to end, and I'm going to try to do it and try to make you understand why you would be excited and passionate about it, and that's his style.
The businessman of the last decade, said Fortune magazine. Michael, you want to add to Steve Jobs?
Yeah, I think there's a couple things to remember. Is that we remember Steve's hits, but he has had a couple of missteps. One of them, in my opinion, is the Apple TV, which hasn't been a very interesting product. In fact, I have a Mac attached to my TV, but it's not an Apple TV because of the limitations. And if he's limited this device too much in this early version and they don't iterate fast enough, they could have a misstep, and competition could come in and do something, you know, hurtful to Apple but helpful to the consumer.
Now, is it possible that he is working on something that isn't quite ready and that it will be like a magical application?
I can't imagine that this device by the holiday season won't have a camera in it. The teardowns show that there's room for a camera. This is just the right time for these devices. Walt talked about historically Microsoft and lots of others, including Apple, with the Newton trying to create a device, a touch device. You have these chips now that are very low power and very high performance with the ARM11, the Snapdragon, Apple's A4, and also the NVIDIA chip. You have this capacitive touch technology that's now working on bigger screens that just wasn't around even a couple of years ago, even really a year ago for a screen of this size, this device can now exist in a way that consumers, I think, can interact with it appropriately. And I think this is the right time for this category to emerge.
I think one thing it showed, and Walt and I watched Steve Jobs take this stage, he may have been thin. He obviously is vigorously engaged in building out his version of the future with this company. There's been no loss of momentum, no loss of ambition, no loss of of scale, whatever he went through in terms of medical issues or illness issues, which was a significant source of concern to shareholders, seems to have had zero impact on their product release schedule, on their reach into the culture, and their ability to preoccupy conversation. Steve Jobs is, still doing what he's always done.
Well, I think that the opportunity to be obsessive about something like the iPad keeps him vital. Thank you, David. Thank you, Michael.